increasingly that way as well. And so if you have questions about other parts of Roland that aren't necessarily Canada, I hope we can answer those for you as well. Can I just have a show of hands? Who here owns a piece of Roland or Boss gear? Thank you very much. Does anybody have two System 1 M's in a rack mounted side by side? You, right? You?
That's me. Yeah,
Back there.
they are the best.
Thank you very
Paul.
much.
You're welcome.
Try and get all the hands raised next time. Paul, would you, Mr. Spacebar? Yes, sir. So, 1972. What was going on in 1972? Just spacebar for me, Paul, please. This is what was going on in the world. Actually, 72 was a fairly depressing year. We had all the stuff going on at the Munich Olympics, Watergate, end of the Vietnam War, raging war in Northern Ireland. Not great. Not a great way to start. Movies: The Godfather, Dirty Harry, A Clockwork Orange, and Cabaret. Again, a fairly strange collection of movies were popular. In music, we were listening to Roxy Music, the Moody Blues, Led Zeppelin, and David Bowie. And also in 72, nothing. It was just completely blank. Okay, good. So Roland, you might have guessed where I was going with that. Roland was established in 1972. Just go to the next slide there, Paul, please.
Images can't be loaded.
That's not cool. So let me tell you a little bit about 1972 and Roland. The founder of Roland was a gentleman by the name of Iketaro Kakahashi. Mr. Kakahashi is still alive. He's about 87 years old right now. And about 3 years ago, he was recognized by the Grammy Association. He won a technical Grammy Award along with Dave Smith from Sequential for inventing MIDI. And that was really cool. That was on the 30th anniversary of MIDI. In any case, you might also know that Mr. K, before Roland, he worked for a few other companies. He had his own company called Ace Electronic. Ace actually ended up being owned by the bank out from under Mr. K. And one day Mr. K just decided, you know what, we've made great products, I've been a terrible businessman, and I'm gonna walk away. I'm just gonna leave the bank and run the company, and I'm just gonna go and do my own thing. On the day he made that decision, 150 people from Ace followed him. And he pleaded with these people, including Tadao Kikumoto, who was one of the most famous engineers in Roland, really the inventor of the TV filter and the TV303, among other things. He said, I have nothing to do. I'm not going anywhere. I'm leaving something. So please stay here and take care of your families. And none of them would listen, and they followed him. So in quite a fast fashion, he says, well, I have to do something now because I've got these people that I'm accountable for. And so he established Roland, and that was in 1972. In 1973, the Boss brand was established. And so really from the second year of the history of Roland, we were a dual branded company, and now we're actually more than two brands as well. We are a truly international company in terms of our R&D. How you doing there, Paul?
You might need to be connected to the old internet. So I'm just connecting you to my hotspot.
Okay, no problem.
But I see that.
Please enjoy the display. In any case, let's see, multi-branded company. Earlier this year, we acquired another brand called V-Moda. And V-Moda, if you haven't heard of them, they're this headphone company. And so V-Moda is now kind of the third brand in the Roland family: Roland, Boss, and V-Moda. I was saying that we're a truly international company. We've got research and development and manufacturing all around the world. We've got 8 different facilities in Japan. That includes manufacturing and R&D. We're in downtown Tokyo. We're in Hamamatsu, which is kind of the Richmond of Japan, I suppose. There's kind of farms, and then there's stuff, and then there's more farms, and then there's stuff. That's kind of Hamamatsu. We're in Europe. We're in the United States, and we're all over the place in terms of our product development, our research and development, and our manufacturing. From a sales and marketing standpoint, we're also global. Roland Canada is headquartered in Richmond, BC. We also have an office in Mississauga, Ontario. And then we've got offices and distribution companies literally all over the world. Ha! Do you want me to come and enter my password?
You could.
Please be with me for just a moment. Nobody look. Okay, we're back. We're just going to brave forward without a PowerPoint because really who needs PowerPoint anyway? Thanks for being patient with me, folks. So I want to tell you a little bit about what Roland is about. We've got, as most big global companies do, we've got mission, vision, and values. Roland's mission, and the reason why we exist, is to inspire people to be creative. And when we say that that's our mission, that truly is our mission. And hopefully, as you might look back from your own perspective on the 45 years of Roland and what your connection to that 45-year history might be, hopefully you can relate to this as well. But we really do try and prioritize forwarding electronic music, forwarding music making, bringing new people into the world of making music. We have been a profitable company. We need to be a profitable company, but a huge part of our profit gets reinvested in research and development so that we can continue our mission. And so that's what we are about, inspiring people to be creative. That is a very non-specific goal as well. Our goal isn't just to inspire people who have artistic abilities, who have the wherewithal, the resources. Our vision is to use our core competency of electronics to bring everybody and give everybody an opportunity to be somehow interactive in music making and media making. And that's our mission. Our vision is to be the best company that we can be rather than the biggest company. And not to get too lost on that point, but I can tell you that for years I never really understood that statement. I kind of figured that maybe that was a little bit lost in translation, be the best rather than the biggest. But then it was actually Mr. Kakahashi, our founder, that took the time to explain it to me once, and he said, when your goal is to be the biggest company, at times in your history you will definitively make decisions that will compromise on being the best. You know, if we can get the price of an instrument down to here instead of here, then we can sell 10,000 in a month instead of 1,000 in a month. But if getting that instrument down to that price requires that you compromise on features or you compromise on quality, well then you're making a decision in that moment to not necessarily be the best. You're prioritizing being a bigger company. And Roland has always tried to be true to this goal, this aspiration of being the best company and not the biggest company. And that's true of the products that we make, that's true of how we manage our business as well. We really do try and be a very honest, a very transparent business. And we try and do every aspect of our business very, very well, including building PowerPoints. I'm really failing on that one right now. Oh, look, there it is. We've got words anyway. And then spacebar, thank you. The last part is the cultural goal of the company, or really our value, and that's to be a very cooperative, a very flat company. We're not nearly as big a company as many people would think. You know, if I were to meet somebody on the street who knew the brand name Roland, and I would say, hey, you know, how many people do you think work for Roland in Canada? Inevitably, I get a number that is 10 times the number of employees that we actually have, and sometimes even more than that. It's like dream state. We are a small specialty company. We are much smaller than some of our nearest competition brands, excellent brands like Yamaha, for example. They're a much more diversified business. We're very, very focused on electronic musical instruments and digital video products. That is what we do. But that makes us corporately much smaller than a brand like Yamaha. But in order to maintain the brand image of Roland and Boss and now V-Moda, it means that we have to find very innovative ways to run our business so that we can have this big brand image, but still we're very small and we're very agile. And so those are the three kind of internal mission, vision, and value statements. The last one is the statement that you probably recognize from our marketing materials: we design the future. And for Roland, that phrase is so much more than just a nice marketing tagline. Sometimes, I'm sure for electronic musicians, the reality of we design the future can be very frustrating, because I cannot tell you how many times in a month I get asked, why don't you just rebuild a TR-808, just build the analog TR-808, build a Jupiter 8, build an SH-101. And you know, the temptation is certainly there. But our ethos, the essence of our brand, is to always be looking forward and to be designing into the future. And we're really, I think in the last 3 or 4 years, especially with the IRA brand, we've found a more contemporary balance between honoring our past legacy, but then bringing that forward using future technology platforms. But that's really what we're about. We're not about just building vintage instruments. We're not going to be the Fender of the electronic music world. We're the company that we believe the world needs to count on to always be challenging and pushing forward. And that's what we're about, and that's what we design the future means to us. Was that a picture? No pictures, okay, good. So, I mentioned that we've got other brand names. Boss was established in 1973. The first compact effects pedal, Boss Effects Pedal, came out in 1977. And it's always, from the second year, as I was saying, the second year of our history, we've been a dual branded company, and now we're multiple brands as well with V-Moda. It's always intriguing for me to discover how many people, especially guitar players that aren't really interested in electronic music as we know it, have absolutely no idea, despite the fact that we printed on the owner's manual, that's probably why, that Boss is part of Roland. But I guess that's success, because we wanted it to be dual branded. We wanted to have a different brand presentation for different customers, and so that's what we've been able to achieve with Boss. And then I think the last logo there might be the V-Moda logo, or maybe no V-Moda logo. Oh, there we go, no logo, but there's the V-Moda headphones. And V-Moda is not just a brand acquisition so that we can now sell these really interesting, very high quality boutique headphones that are used by almost 50% of the world's top performing DJs. It was actually also an engineering acquisition. Roland is the kind of company that, because we've been around for almost half a century, we're sustainable, we've got staying power. We get approached almost every month of the year by a company asking if we might be interested in acquiring them. And it is very, very rare that an acquisition actually happens. Inevitably, what will happen, because what we're really interested in is not, you know, what is your brand equity, what is your distribution system like, because all of that stuff is very amorphous. What we're really interested in is, what does your R&D look like? What are your R&D talents? How many engineers do you have, and what are their unique skills? What are the unique technologies that you're working on that might bring value to Roland? And so often, when we get approached by a brand and then we look behind the curtain, we find that, you know, a company of 100 employees might have 3 or 4 engineers that are just working feverishly to put products out. Or increasingly in today's world, companies are designing a product on paper, and then it's called ODM manufacturing, original design manufacturing. They'll just go to an overseas company and have them manufacture the product to a price point. And there is no engineering, and that really doesn't interest us. But in the case of V-Moda, V-Moda has engineers in Milan, Italy, who actually work in one of Da Vinci's old studios. How crazy is that? I was out for dinner in Japan with the president of V-Moda, and I was proudly about to tell him about our new office at the King George SkyTrain station in Surrey, and he drops that bomb on me. It's like, all right, can we talk about ice hockey? Because clearly you've got the trump card when it comes to offices. Anyway, incredible engineering talent in V-Moda. And so what you're going to be seeing in the very near future is some collaborative projects, both on the V-Moda side and on the Roland side, that recognize the combined engineering talents of these companies. And that's really what Roland is interested in when we make this combination of brands like that. We'll just kind of spin the wheel and see what PowerPoint slide we get that comes up next.
Yeah.
Okay. It's an interesting random slide, but leave it there for a second. I'll go, okay, that's fine. That's fine. We'll just stitch this together as we go. The point I was going to make from that slide is that, of course, Roland has a wonderful history of iconic instruments and effects processors and things of this nature. Our first product, the first Roland product, was actually a rhythm machine, the TR-77, then the 55 and the 33. That was followed by Japan's first commercially produced synthesizer, the SH-1000. The TR-808 came along in 1980, the Jupiter 8 in 1982. These are all instruments that are really, really recognized and iconic. And Joel, thank you, have played a part in defining and establishing complete music genres. What's really intriguing about it, though, is that, and some of you may know this history, there are many of these instruments that become definitive in a particular music genre. Roland engineers had no intention that they would be used in that way. The TB303 was literally meant to be a baseline replacement for the singing guitar player country dude. That's what it was. There's no imagination for, you know, acid bass lines and all that kind of stuff. But the world took the TB303 and embraced it and took it in a different direction. The TR-909 was a complete commercial failure. When I was working at Long & McQuaid in 1986, we received a shipment of 50 TR-909s that I think Long & McQuaid paid $150 each for, and we were selling them for 225 bucks. And it took us months to sell through them, right? Because it, you know, at that time, the Lindrum was out. We were probably pretty close to the first drumulator from EMU. So the world was starting to get into these fully sampled rhythm machines. And the 909 was kind of this hybrid thing, right? It had some samples and it had some synthesized sounds. And so it just didn't click at that time. Of course, years later, who would buy a TR-909 for 225 bucks if you were offered it? Can you get to that slide that showed the TR-09? That one, okay? What we are trying to do now, though, and I mentioned about this phrase, we design the future. And I mentioned that I think that over the last 3 or 4 years, we've begun to find a bit of a comfortable balance where we're able to honor our legacy and honor the tradition and the iconic stature of some of these instruments, but yet bring it forward to a totally new customer base. And the boutique series would be one example of us doing that with the TR-09. So this uses our analog circuit behavior modeling, which I can talk a little bit more about if you'd like, as its sound source. And then it has all of the kind of the nice connectivity complements that you would hope to find in a digital instrument. But the UI, the man-machine interface, is extraordinarily faithful to the original interface of the TR-909. And we've done that as well with the JB08, all the boutique series. And then the essence of that man-machine interface and sound is also at the heart of virtually all of the IRA products as well. And so that's that balance of legacy and bringing it forward and designing the future is something that we'll always be working to perfect that, but I think we're getting a little bit better at that right now. What slide might be next, Paul? Sure, okay. That's just another example. IRA, we previewed IRA to the world in the fall of 2013, I think, and then rolled it out into like 2014. And IRA as well. Needless to say, there was some apprehension about revisiting the TR-808 after all of this time, and then even more apprehension about doing it in the digital realm. But we worked for years on this core technology called analog circuit behavior. We'd worked with a group of the original engineers for the TR rhythm machines that we still had access to, and a couple of them are still working inside the company at Roland. Those that aren't actually meet as a kind of a collective called the Analog Mafia in Tokyo. And we brought them in, and they consulted on the fine-tuning of analog. I know, what a juxtaposition that is, right? Anyway, so they helped us with fine-tuning the analog circuit behavior modeling, and that was not a small feat. How many people have seen 808 the movie? Anybody seen that? Okay. When you get the chance to, and I think it's actually going to be on Apple Music quite soon, it's an absolutely fantastic, very entertaining history lesson on the beginnings of hip-hop and really the 808's influence on especially the New York scene. Anyway, what you learn quite clearly in 808 the movie, or what's told quite clearly, is that one of the things that made the 808 so unique is that a lot of the analog components that are in the 808 were actually cast-offs from the consumer electronics industry. So these were parts that didn't meet the tolerances of the Pioneers and the Panasonics, all the Matsushita brands and whatnot. And so they were cast off, but they were then hand-sifted through by our engineers and selected for the unique idiosyncrasies. And those components are what populated the motherboard on a TR-808, and what made one 808 sound different from another 808, sound different from another 808, okay? So needless to say, trying to rebuild an 808 today and go through that same process of trying to do all of the flaws in all of these analog components and recreate them again in the analog realm would be really, really difficult. But using analog circuit behavior, we can recreate all of that. The way ACB works essentially is instead of modeling a complete circuit or a complete instrument as a kind of a macro model, every discrete component is modeled, and all of its characteristics, all of its nuances, all of the idiosyncrasies of that component are modeled. Then those components are populated into a circuit board, a model of a circuit board, and then their unique interactions are all modeled as well. So by the time we actually get to the finished result, what you're hearing is as close as we could possibly get to the unique characteristics of the original TR-808 or the TR-909 and SH synthesizers and what have you. They all use the same ACB. Simply wouldn't be possible, really, today in the true analog world. What else have we got, Paul? What else can I talk about here? So System 8, there's supposed to be a Jupiter 8 up the side there, and that was another kind of a comparison. System 8 is a new synthesizer that we just introduced on 909 Day in September. And the System 8 uses the next generation of ACB. And if I get way too nerdy, please just stop me. My wife would be going, stop right now. So please, don't hesitate. I'm used to it. And I'm always being interrupted. I've got 4 kids at home and I'm always being interrupted, so you do that too. Anyway, with the System 8, the heart of a lot of Roland instruments now are, it's very large scale integration, or VLSI. We've been a pioneer in VLSI in the digital music realm for years now. But we developed unique, what are called system-on-a-chip platforms. So they're kind of like the pinnacle of VLSI, very large-scale integration. And Roland is one of the only companies in the world of electronic musical instruments that actually designs our own system-on-a-chips. And so for years we've been using something called SSC, or the original system-on-a-chip. System 8 uses a totally new generation of this system on a chip, which is almost 10 times as powerful as the previous generation, and allows us to do polyphonic analog circuit behavior modeling. And so as a result, System 8 is a polyphonic ACB synthesizer that comes preloaded with the Jupiter 8, fully 8-voice polyphonic Jupiter 8, and will soon get the Juno 106 embedded in it. And it will also be able to play all the other plugouts. And the plugout is also a technology that we developed, which can take a VST or an AU software synthesizer and offload it to hardware with all of your patch data and everything like that, so you can play it. The System 1, the System 1M, and the System 8 all have this plugout technology. So by the end of the year, System 8 is going to be able to play the SH101, the ProMars, the SH2, and the System 100, all as these plugouts loaded into it as well. And because this new system on a chip is so powerful, we can actually host 3 different plug-outs and actually build patches that are composites of these different plug-out engines all stacked on top of one another, which is really, really powerful. Boy, I just kind of even made myself geeked out a little bit there. What's our next slide? How are we doing for time, Joel?
We've got about 15 left for maybe Q&A.
Okay, why don't we stop, because I could go on this stream forever.
We're good on slides. Once we go ahead, maybe.
Okay, stop there for just a sec. Real quickly. Actually, go back 1 slide. Okay, so that doesn't have all the images. Not everything we make is a hit, okay? These would be some of the products that weren't hits. I demonstrated, I was a product demonstrator, I demonstrated the DJ70 Mark II. I used to wear a clock around my neck and a New York Yankees ball cap turned backwards, and I would sample Duran Duran tunes and remix them live. So just, if you thought I was cool, boom. That orange thing is whatever. And yeah, some time ago we thought, hey, let's take V-drums to the marching percussion world. That would be cool. You know, there's not that many marching percussion bands in Canada. We found that out fairly quickly. So not everything that we make is a hit, but everything has a purpose. So go to the next slide now. Because even when our products go outside of like the mainstream core electronic musical instruments, synthesizers, drum machines, V-drums, guitar synthesizers, and what have you, we can do some amazing things based on the experiments that we do. And to be very honest with you, I've always felt that Roland is its strongest, healthiest when we're being nuts. When you look at our catalog and there's 3 or 4 things that where you just go, what the hell is that? But those what the hell is that leads to things like the PC-10 El Cajon, which is the world's first electronic layered cajon. It's amazing, you have to try it. The digital wind instrument, the Aerophone, which uses our supernatural synth and modeling technology with fingering that's identical to an alto saxophone, but then you could play 100 different instrument sounds on it and connect it to a computer and what have you. The V-accordion, how many of you are accordion players? Hands up, come on, show me. Chickens, probably half of you are. Anyway, the incredible technology in the V-accordion with pressure-sensitive bellows and what have you, and then hand sonic. These are all instruments that kind of come out of our kind of crazy experiments. So not everything's mainstream. We do some kooky stuff, but the kooky stuff usually leads to some gold a little bit down the road. So let's stop and just take some questions.
I've got 2 for you right off the hop. Can I get the engine going by asking you 2 quick questions, Paul?
As long as it's not about PowerPoint.
You got it. The first thing is, I'm a producer and a DJ, but I've been in the box for years and I only play vinyl. Now I want to play live. You have the IRA line. I want to start to integrate all that stuff together and put together a live set. Is there kind of one thing that brings it all together?
It depends on the kind of music that you want to make. Frankly, all of the IRA gear, including the TR8, the TB3, the VT3 voice transformer, pretty much everything is designed to be its own bridge to the world of the computer. So they've all got USB. Depending on what the instrument is, the functionality of USB will change. But for example, with the TR8, if you just want to use the TR8 to be able to trigger rhythms and manipulate beats, while you've got clips that are firing off of live, you've got super tight synchronization across USB. You've got audio flowing from the TR8 into channels in live. You can then process it in live. You can bring stuff back the other way as well. And just that simple combination is a really tight system. The TB3 is almost the same kind of integration as well. If you really want to go for it, we make something in the IRA line called the SBX1 Sync Box, which basically syncs anything to anything across USB, across MIDI, across CD and gate, you name it. And it kind of acts as this real total bridge between in the box and outside of the box.
Is that the piece that also would act as a performance tool, connecting everything together, like the brain of the octopus, if you like?
Well, I think you might be talking about the new DJ808.
Okay.
Right, which is our DJ controller for Serato, which, oh look, a picture that works. That looks like that. And see, DJ808 is also something that is really, it brings a lot of technologies together. So it's got all the connectivity of IRA. It's got like the absolute best control surface for Serato that you could possibly imagine. And then it integrates things like a TRS, step time rhythm sequencer and sample sequencer, so that you can be mixing tracks with Serato, you can be firing sample pads, and you could be layering in beats that you're programming and firing live on this TRS as well, all in this one box.
Can you help us with our Apple OS upgrades?
Hell no.
Okay.
In fact, I was cursing the word Sierra this afternoon.
Right?
In
El
fact,
Capitan.
yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's it for me. You've
Okay.
sated my curiosity. Let's open it up to the room.
Please. Yes, ma'am.
You said like the 808s, they're all different. I own a 303, and I was just wondering if it is also different from any other 303.
Correct. Yeah, it's very much the same thing. One of our kind of most revered engineers, a guy named Tadao Kikumoto, who he retired from Roland years ago, and his hobbies right now are robotics and levitation. But this was the guy that designed the TV filter. And so basically his goal was to create a sound in the filter that was unique and very dynamic, that took into account the fact that the components underneath that were actually generating the sound were themselves very dynamic, and there was a wide range of tolerances, but deliberately so. And yeah, one TB303 sounds different from another TB303 for sure.
That's why I don't challenge Josh.
That's exactly why. Yeah, that's why. Blame Tadao Kikumoto. We call him Tad. Yeah.
I'm going to repeat the questions after they're
Sure.
said, just so they come out on the microphone and they go out over Facebook Live, because we are broadcasting live to the World Wide Web. People call it that, right?
Okay. I really love the SP line, like all the samplers that you guys have made, but it looks like you maybe like halted that sort of thing. Is there any plans ever for a release of any updated sort of SP hardware?
Any plans to bring back the SP sampler or something like it?
Yeah. So right now the SP404SX is the current pad-based sampler. It still sells incredibly well. It's quite amazing. And no, we're not finished with SP. Roland and pad-based sampling is kind of a marriage made in heaven. And we do see kind of pad-based, well, the DJ808 has got kind of pad-based sampling integrated into it, but dedicated pad-based sampling we'll come back to. Okay? Yes?
Okay, this is going to be weird. Your digital wind instrument,
Yeah.
coming from Akai Huey, the ergonomics of it look very appealing. I'm wondering, does it have that cloned user bank that you can manipulate via software modeling synthesis as well?
I'm not repeating that one.
He said our robot's real, and I said, yeah. At the moment, we do not have a dedicated editor, but frankly, the Aerophone is just arriving in stores next week. So we're really just getting going with it.
Never seen it before. What's the price point on it retail?
$1,000. Yeah, $1,000. And if I may, I'll seize upon your question just to say that, you know, we're obviously we studied, you know, the EWI line. I learned to play an EVI, electronic valve instrument, nerd alert. And of course we know the WX range from Yamaha as well. What makes the Aerophone unique, and this is one of Roland's guiding principles, is that when we build an instrument that is designed to bring the acoustic player into the electronic world, our absolute fundamental guiding goal is to not challenge the player to adjust their technique. That's always been our goal. If the player has to adjust their technique and spend too much time learning our instrument, then we failed. And so Aerophone has been in the works for a long time. The goal was first of all to respect the fingering technique, but then also to respect all of the articulation as well. So on Aerophone, when you actually see the mouthpiece, there's a synthetic reed as well that you can bite down on and do growl effects and things like that as well. And that's all us trying to respect the interface. We do that with the Hansonic, we do that with digital pianos as well. It's always respecting the interface that people have spent decades trying to perfect the playing of.
We've got time for 2 more questions before we wrap up and get on to music tonight. Who's got a question for Paul right there?
What's Roland doing in terms of like newer Eurorack modules?
Is Roland moving into modular and/or Eurorack?
Yeah, so we did move into Eurorack about a year ago. For better or worse, I was probably one of the voices that started the conversation in Roland. It was just after IRA came out and we were wondering where to kind of take this ACB technology. And I was in a conversation with the president of the division inside our company that does IRA. And I just come from the Frankfurt Music Messe and was upstairs. If you've ever been to Frankfurt before, Hall of Five, upstairs is this kind of analog zoo, which is incredible. And I said, you know, I don't necessarily think that we would do this because we would sell millions and millions, but if we're trying to build bridges into like the real hardcore synth communities, if we were to go into the world of Eurorack, I think that that would be a massive olive branch. And so actually before we left Frankfurt, we had where Roland's IRA booth was right beside Doepfer. And so Dieter Doepfer came over and had a meeting with the president of RPG after this conversation, and Dieter actually invited us. He said, please, you know, please come into the world of Eurorack. It'd be so amazing if you did that. And so at this point, we've got the IRA effects. There's 4 different IRA effects, which are the little desktop effects, which are also Eurorack. We have the System 1M, which somebody here knows doubly well, right? Which is an ACB synthesizer that is compatible with plugouts that can run in Eurorack as well. We have the System 500 series, which we've done as a collaboration with Malico Heavy Industry out of Portland, Oregon. And basically with Malico, we turned over the schematics to the original System 700 with some ideas for how we wanted to update, and we began a collaborative design process with them, and that led to the System 500, and there's more to come. Oh, people. We love people. My last little plug. Somebody was going to ask me, so what are you doing here in Canada? I know that question was right there. So let me answer that by saying, we have actually, very, very pleased to tell you that in Canada, we've opened the world's first Roland Inspiration Centers. The first one opened in Toronto, right in Liberty Village on King Street West, 1179 King Street West. The second one is going to be opening in Vancouver, actually in Surrey, at the King George SkyTrain station in the middle of November. And these are spaces that are curated living collections of the state-of-the-art in Roland and Boss and Demoda. We're open to the public during the week. You can come on in. If our product specialists are in, you can hang with them and chat with them for a little while and just be inspired by, you know, chatting tech with our folks and play with everything that's new. These are some photos of the Roland Inspiration Center, Toronto, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. As I say, we're actually doing a VIP opening middle of November, so that 3rd week in November we throw our doors over to the public, and we'd love to see you all there.
Thank you, Paul. One more time, where is that and when does it open?
It is Suite 204, 9900 King George Boulevard. In fact, if you take the SkyTrain station to the last stop, King George SkyTrain station, you get off the SkyTrain, you walk 100 yards to the big glass building. There was a picture of that one right there. That's the Toronto and the Toronto Carpet Factory. This is Vancouver. You walk to that building, come up to the 2nd floor, and you're there with us. It takes 30 minutes to get from downtown to there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Paul McCabe, for coming in and showing us all this amazing things that Roland is up to. We're really excited about the Inspiration Center.
Thank you.
I think you'll probably get quite a few people from here dropping in, at least that night, if not over and over and over again, just to turn the lights on.
Thank you.
It's a lot of fun. Big hand for Paul McCabe, from President of Roland. Thank you, Facebook land. Take just a second to switch over some video inputs, and now's a great time to grab a drink. We also have a little something we wanted to show you about, because there's a music video festival called Rendered coming up November 4th and 5th, and our friend from the Automatic Message, Steph, you're going to remind me of her name one more time because he just went right in my... Trevor Jacobson from the Automatic Message, who was here last month, is part of spearheading that. It's a music video festival happening November 4th and 5th. We have a tiny preview video we want to show you up here in a second. We're just going to switch the inputs over. So have a chat, talk about your favorite Roland gear, hit the bar, say hi to Chad, make a new friend. In about 2 minutes, we're going to get going.
John,
Zero fuckery.
can I have a kidney, please?
No, I only have one left, so no.
No, I want your kidney.
My dad has the other one.
Awesome.
Dark Arms. Did you know Dark Arms has only one kidney? He's right there. He's standing next to the screen that's lit. Go say hi. He's a nice guy.